edition of the Odyssey Pod. We're joined by our frequent guest Yuri as well as our special guest Danny. How are you two guys doing?
Doing well.
Doing great, man.
Sorry,
Good
you
to
go
see you.
first.
Doing great. Super cold here in the US. So just chilling, man. Good to see you.
Yeah. Thanks for having me again, Max. Also doing great. Actually, I haven't followed price action too much. So yeah, you please show the chart. I'm not completely in a loop right now, but I saw like some X headlines about what is happening right now. So curious to see that.
Yeah, I mean, the summary is that sentiment and price is pretty much in the gutter. While I'm pulling up CoinGecko, before the pod, we just had a very interesting and very timely discussion because now we're all poor, but we were discussing whether like airport lounges and flying business class is worth it. So like, what's your guys' 1 minute take on these topics?
You go first, Danny.
I go first?
Yeah.
I mean, with lounges, it's a little bit different because you could just get in with your credit card. I think that like the lounge is like almost always worth it. And I think like business and first class is almost never worth it. You know, it's like for the amount of time that you're in the air, you know, dude, I just can't ever justify it. You know, it's one of those things where it's like you're saving $4,000 or $5,000 for like 8 hours in like a less comfortable seat. But I've been, you know, I'm an old man now. I'm almost 40. I've been traveling internationally since I was a little kid. And so I always sort of got used to it, always got in like the right headspace. And just like, you know, even if it's like a flight to Asia or something, it's like, okay, this is going to suck. Just like suck it up. Who cares? And then now that I am older and probably could like buy business and first class tickets sometimes, I still don't. I mean, there's always like, if you can get like a $200 upgrade and you just like see it on the app, like, yeah, of course, 100%. But for me, no, it's like one of those things you just have to keep a few things in life where you're like, okay, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to go there. I'm going to like be wise with my money in like a few different ways, you know? And so for me, like I'll probably never buy a sports car and try not to fly first or business. Just like suck it up.
Yeah, my take is strongly depends, but let's start with that. If you think of getting a credit card just to enter a lounge, I would highly not advising. I wouldn't advise doing that because most of these credit card lounges just suck these days. Like they are completely overcrowded. There's nothing premium about it, and it's really not a nice place to hang out. Just a very good example. When I had my layover, my 2 hours layover or something in Sao Paulo when flying from Lisbon to Buenos Aires, I saw like the lounge I could have access to, and I said, no fucking way. So I went to the TGI Fridays because it was like a restaurant that was almost empty, plus the food was better. So whatever. So yeah, lounges depends. Like if you plan to get like a credit card and then get the lounge access, I wouldn't do that. I just do. I just have a American Express credit card because of all of the other benefits. When I spend money, it's like nice to get like a cashback on it. So it's like a very useful tool, at least in Germany. I don't know how it's about what's about in the US. And business class depends. So I agree. I wouldn't spend a fortune on it. But if you get a smart deal, like book super in advance or bidding on it in the auction in this auction procedure where you can, I don't know, bid $100 or something, then it's definitely worth it because you acquire airline points if you're loyal to an airline. Plus, sleep is the most important thing. So for a long haul overnight flight, I would always try to look for opportunities. But long haul, like in a day flight, I don't see the value of it. But for a night haul, 100%.
That's
Man,
true about the
you're deep in
lounges.
the
Like,
game there.
sorry, go ahead.
Huh?
You're deep in the game there, Yuri.
Yes, yes, yes. But it's different if you can deduct the cost and like have like one airline you stick to, and then you have like your own kind of strategy. But I would never ever go and say, oh, let's spend like 3K on a business class flight. Never ever I would do that.
Yeah.
But if
This-
there's like the chance to shoot it for like a couple of $100 more, and you get like the benefits and deduct it from tax anyway, like it's quality of life. No.
This is how hardcore I am. My wife upgraded. We just went to Ecuador, and she upgraded to first class, and I refused. So she sat in first class the whole time, and I sat in the back.
Fellow raccoon traveling hardo here.
Yeah, exactly. But it is true about the lounges. And I don't. What's weird is that happened like within the last 2 years. I've been using the lounges forever, and the last 2 years, like the Amex lounge is so crowded and so like weird and annoying, and then you just end up being like with people who like feel like they're owed something and are like really annoying and stuck up. And it's crowded. You know what I mean? So you're just crowded with like annoying people. So yeah, I totally agree there. It's not. It used to be worth it, like even like 2 years ago, and now it's more obnoxious, and it's better just to find a good restaurant.
Yeah, I was stuck in Atlanta airport for 8 hours 2 days ago, and that was one of the first times where I thought like, gosh, I might consider like getting one of these credit cards or trying to like integrate it into everyday spending or whatnot to get access to something. Because if you're stuck,
Did you go to that sushi place I told you about?
oh no, I just
Okay.
spend time at the gate.
Boah, that sounds brutal.
It does sound
Yep.
brutal. I would have picked you up and taken you out if I had known you were going to be in Atlanta for 8 hours.
Yeah, I thought you were way further from Atlanta. I thought you were like 3-4 hours away.
No. And I have so many friends in Atlanta, dude. Could have had you at the strip club instead of at the gate.
Sir, this is a PG-13 podcast.
Well, yeah,
Yeah, let's have a look at the chart.
That's why I said the PG-13 idea.
We'll do it next time. I'm sure about that. But yeah,
Yeah,
looking at price charts, we sold off pretty heavily over the last couple of days. So on the 1 month, we are down a lot. We had a brief recovery rally up to 97K in mid-January, and ever since we declined, bottoming at the upper 74Ks. That was a few hours ago this morning, Europe time. So what are you guys making of this market? How are you guys positioned? Are you still exposed to crypto? Have you bought the dip? What is your outlook for the coming days, weeks, and months?
Interesting. Like really, like I wasn't like too attached to it because I sold actually almost everything I had. Like a couple of days ago. Now I realized that this was a relatively smart idea. But yeah, I don't like I wouldn't like even though currently like as of now I'm not that exposed to the market. I would say this was like expected because I think I don't I can't remind I can't remind which I can't remember which article it was, but there have been a lot of articles stating about these long positions using leverage. So I think this brutal price collapse is, yeah, I think nature healing kind of a thing. We had like a lot of long positions there in the market using a lot of leverage. And I think a lot of people were like expecting, okay, never ever we will see Bitcoin again under like 80K. There were even people saying, okay, that's the last time you can buy Bitcoin around the 100K mark. And all of a sudden, it turns out that these levels are tested again, which is a good thing, I guess, because again, there was a lot of leverage in the market. Now it collapsed. Bitcoin is a big boss, so it drags a lot of altcoins with it. So I think the same procedure is always now.
Yeah, I mean, I sold once Bitcoin broke 96. That was like my big level. That happened while we were in Argentina, Yuri. I sold everything except Hyperliquid. And so I am like sort of looking for dips. I am like pretty interested in starting to accumulate things. I have a short list of things that I'm going to try to accumulate over the next however long we get lower. So yeah, I'm actually starting to get. I haven't been interested. I've been like off, been hanging out with family and friends. But I think it's time to start paying attention to like getting some good entries on some things that I want to hold long term or at least like mid term.
What are these coins like? Is it mostly majors, or are you trying to like focus on the revenue generating coins, so the very few actually functioning businesses in crypto? Is there still any
Yeah.
attention of yours on the infra side of things, or how are you looking at your watch list right now?
I feel like in general, like the L1 trade is dead. And so like, that doesn't mean like there won't be other like sort of L1 trades that pop up, but I think that those are going to happen in really bullish market conditions. So, you know, Bitcoin, the problem with this Bitcoin chart is like Bitcoin could go to 110 and it still just sort of look like an inverse head and shoulders is going to like come back down, you know? So like, I think like Bitcoin and ETH and like the majors have like so much work to do before they could start having bullish looking charts again, that those aren't really things I'm interested in. And like once those got bullish again, then I would be interested in like trading a whole, you know, host of different assets. But right now I think the revenue trade is still the trade, like this sort of like hype pump barbell that we've been talking about for a year. I mean, if you look at the relative strength, I don't know if you can pull up the hype Bitcoin chart, but it looks fucking unbelievable. And so hype is, I think, like number one. I think I'm thinking about hype in this Bitcoin downtrend, like Binance traded in 2018. While Bitcoin and ETH went down sideways, almost did nothing. You know, BNB, you know, went from $2 to $400 or something, and then like Cardano at that same time was sort of on this like 2 cents to 1 cent run. So I think there's going to be outliers, and so those are the things that like I'm excited to trade with. I'm just like purely long hype right now. I don't have like, I'm not like farming anything else by being like short on, you know, another perp dex or anything. I'm just sort of like long hype and K hype. Kinetic over at Hype is like also probably one of like the best looking charts in crypto. I know we've talked about that in the dojo a little bit, Max. So yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm also still really stoked about SETA. I've been like slowly sort of, you know, a couple hundred bucks here and there, like not much, not totally convinced, but yeah, generally really excited about Hype. All of the SETA stuff is pretty cool. We can talk about that if you want, but basically it's the underlying infrastructure for all of the HIP3 markets, which I think you saw like HIP3 coming online so slowly. Everyone like expected it to happen faster, and then that didn't happen. It sort of was a slow buildup. And then we had the big metals run on Hyperliquid, you know, billions and billions of open interest and trading volume on the metals. So I think we're going to see that more and more. Anything like in the real world that is exciting, any stocks, you know, you could think about like the SpaceX IPO coming up this year sometime, things like that. I think that when those are traded on chain, I think we're going to see it all happen on Hyperliquid, and that volume just, you know, adds to the buy pressure and keeps things rolling over there. So I think it's pretty exciting. It's like Yuri was saying, like there's been a ton of noise washed out of the market, and I think it's a good time to pay attention to like cool stuff, charts that look good, and projects that are actually accomplishing their missions.
Yeah, I've seen a few people who are slowly getting interested in crypto again. One of the very few who managed to scale out, maybe not at the Pico top, but at least above the 100K mark for Bitcoin. I just watched a Taiki video earlier. I mean, he got mocked by a lot of people end of last year when he was kind of confused or uncertain about the direction of where he wanted to take his investing style, and also going along with that, his content. And he dabbled in meme coins, then reverted back to Maker. But ultimately, the trade that now brought him a very large win was to short ETH over the past couple of months. And I mean, he's been doing phenomenally well with that. I think on Variational, one of the perp dexes, he has a cumulative P&L of above 1.1 million. And I mean, he's not a super small fish, but he's also not one guy with. I would like guesstimate him to be somewhere in the mid 7-figure port range, maybe lower 8-figure. So to accumulate a 1.1 million P&L there, and assuming that this is not through delta neutral trades, where he took the other side on other perp dexes to farm them, that is a pretty significant win for him, nevertheless. And he's been holding that ETH short for several weeks now. I think he closed it for a while when it was rebounding, but then he opened it again. And I mean, that's a pretty big win, but now even he is starting to slowly prepare for sentiment flipping and looking at it to bottom. I think that it's always much nicer to have the people who actively hold shorts or have held shorts flip bullish again, or the ones who sold, rather than just listening to all the perma bulls who are saying, well, now this is the time to buy, and essentially they're yelling from the roof to buy every dip, but there's not really any signal in that. And a lot of these people have become a little more quiet over the past couple of days. I would sense that there's somewhat of a capitulation sentiment in the markets. I'm not 100% sure if this is like the bottom. I have no edge to judge over that, but I do think we are certainly closer to the bottom than to the top. And yeah, I do think that going forward for this year, but perhaps also for next year, unless something fundamentally changes about the structure of crypto markets and the type of market participants, capital inflows, etc., it is going to be BTC and a very concentrated, very selected portfolio of altcoins going forward. I align a lot with you, Danny, on the hyperliquid side, and also when it comes to revenue generating DeFi coins. I find Pendle still very interesting. I find Syrup very interesting. Maybe Aerodrome. It's going to be interesting to keep an eye on them with their expansion over to ETH mainnet. Maybe the likes of Aave are going to manage to turn around. I try to keep an eye on all the things that are generating revenue right now, not necessarily all of these that are functional businesses in DeFi have it already tied directly to their tokens. So there is still a lot of room for improvement there to really make the token reflective of how the company and the project is doing. And I would also try to keep an eye on everything that has the potential to get integrated into traditional finance products to expand their product suite, particularly lending markets and anything that has to do with crypto neo-banking or crypto credit cards.
That's cool. Well, one thing you didn't mention was the privacy narrative. You know, we saw sort of a run up at the end of the cycle there where Zcash and Monero outperformed everything. All of the other sort of privacy plays, the smaller ones, basically got no attention. Everyone thought they were going to run up and then they didn't. So that's like just one other thing that I'm looking for good entries on, as well as like buying miners for both, and something I'm like excited about long term. So, you know, I think it's time to like, I mean, this being the exact bottom and then like we just run up into the rest of the year just seems like so unbelievably like doesn't make any sense. You know, I think like we're literally still like washing out from whatever the hell happened on October 10th of 25, which basically destroyed the alt market. So I think this is time to like make a short list of things you want to accumulate, and then like don't buy until you get those levels. You know, and that's, you know, that's really all you can do. It doesn't make any sense. Like I don't see, you know, I don't see Bitcoin going to like 30K or 40K. I sort of see the bottom, you know, somewhere in the 60s, low 60s, mid 60s. a lot of traders are looking at the 100-day moving average on the weekly as sort of like a, maybe that's around where we'll find the bottom. And so I kind of tend to agree. I think in general, maybe a little lower, maybe not, but we probably chop for a very long time until there's some dramatic changes in the world. We're like, investors like no chaos, and like we still have this president in the US who is like the harbiter of chaos. We've been saying this for over a year, where it's like it's just really difficult to make bets on either side anywhere because we're always like 3 days away from another war. We're always like 3 days away from just something insane happening. So I definitely think like crypto in general is on hard mode for trading and predicting what's going to happen.
Especially there's like the thing like the attention span, right? And I think this is like something that investors generally struggle with right now, where to shift the attention to. I think crypto has a super hard time. It's like this old, boring blockchain tech, so to say. I don't mean this in a bad or arrogant way or something, but if you're like coming from the outside, it's nothing that really excites you because nothing much has happened in the industry in the past 4 years. I think we have to be that honest to admit that. I mean, compared to the jumps that we experienced between, for example, 2018, 2019, and 2021 were just gigantic. If we look, okay, we saw NFTs emerging, we saw DeFi activity reaching new highs, we saw discussions around adopting Bitcoin as a legal tender in some countries. So these were like massive developments. And from 2023 to now, we just said, hey, yeah, we built cool infra and we have legal clarity, certainty. Like people don't spend or like don't focus on these news. They don't spend any attention on that if there's wars going on left and right and AI taking over. All of us, we only have 24 hours a day. So I think the attention span is also what crypto has to to consider if we want to have like an industry where we attract new builders, new talents, build cool stuff, and basically go back to a similar ecosystem and what we have seen in 2021. But to be very honest, I don't think that we will ever return to this point where we have like this flourishing ecosystem and we are all builders and humbaya, we are all friends, and we talk about chain decentralization. I think these times are clearly over, and right now blockchain and crypto generally has to prove itself that there's a reason why it should actually exist in this crazy world that we experience right now, as harsh as it might sound.
I'd like to disagree a little bit there when it comes to the whole development of the industry. I would argue that in 2024 and 2025, we have seen much more meaningful confirmation that our industry is now one of the relevant players, and we've seen much more acceptance into fintechs and into traditional finance than we have seen between 2021 and 2023. But
Such as?
Well, I mean, all the stablecoin integrations by large banks, stuff like the Robinhood L2 tokenized stocks. These are all things that have not really even been, realistic in immediate.
Yeah, but like my question is like from what it looks like is that's not necessarily what we have built or like what we aim to design. At the end of the day, we basically see like all of these big guys coming and say, okay, nice what you built here, kids. Let us take over here. This is like what this entire matter is all about. I mean, after all of these years of innovation and discussions, do we really now come back to the point and say, oh, we build centralized stablecoins, which is essentially like, yes, people call it stablecoins, but you could also just call it digital USD. And there are like certain abbreviations of it.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
To that point for sure. I mean, have some of the original values of crypto been betrayed, or have they been made second priority? Absolutely. Yet all of the signs of adoption in terms of banks, fintechs, and even some governments being more friendly towards Bitcoin and crypto as an industry that we've dreamt of in 2021, most of these things have come true. On the side of retail adoption, we've completely failed. I would agree with that. I mean, it's not been normalized to interact on native DeFi, knowing that it is running on DeFi rails. I would say quite the opposite of that. I would say the number of actual on-chain participants has been down only, at least ever since the meme coin craze of late 2024.
Well, the thing is it just turned out that everyone was building the wrong thing. Everyone like raising a bunch of money and spinning up a new L1, thinking that block space is the new oil and you're going to start competing with Ethereum and the Bitcoin network was just a stupid idea. Okay. And so now you have projects like Canton that have come out and they're settling and being like a clearinghouse, doing hundreds of billions of dollars of volume on their network because they understood right away that people like big banks, traditional finance folks wouldn't want to trade on an open ledger, that they're going to want privacy through all of their transactions. And so just by Canton like fixing that, understanding what their customers are really going to want, and then going after those customers, they're already becoming like one of the most successful projects in crypto, even though people aren't hearing about them because they don't do like Twitter spaces with a bunch of bored apes. But I think in general, the people were building the wrong thing. You know, like they were building something that isn't interesting. They were building something without a use case. They were building something without like true innovation. And so it's just time for us to realize that some of those were just stupid ideas and we shouldn't have invested in them. And they were all built on hype. But as all that noise clears, we can start to look at some of the projects that have product market fit, that have like really innovated in cool ways, and just invest in those and pick the winners. You know, we're at this moment that the internet went through. You know, like I lived through like the Amazon and pet.com bubble and all that shit. I was 16 and already paying attention to markets. And it's the same thing. There's going to be massive winners that come out of this industry. It just happens to be on hard mode now, and people are going to have to do research and actually pick the top projects instead of every single thing goes up like in 21.
May I add to that? But here's like this important thing. I love the analogy to Amazon, actually, because what happened to Amazon throughout this tech bear market in the early 2000s was also that Amazon really, really struggled. So now in hindsight, everyone is like, okay, yeah, of course, Amazon won, but Amazon really, really struggled. I listened to a very interesting podcast about that recently, and Amazon really was on the verge of running out of money. And also Amazon basically needed to justify its existence, and it mastered it. It's like one of the biggest companies in the world. What I want to say with that is that we as an industry should really ask ourselves really, really critical questions, if that makes sense. Like, what are we building here? Is there actually demand for what we are building? Because exactly what you just said, Farmer, is what we didn't do in 2022, 2023, 2024. We just said, oh, we are building a lot of infra because block space is the new oil, but there was no demand for it. Not at all. And even like 2 years further down the line, there was no demand for it. So this is exactly the question we should ask ourselves. Is there like from project to project, from layer one to layer one, from ecosystem to ecosystem, why should this thing exist? And yeah, if we don't do that and basically stay in our comfy bubble we're traveling to a bunch of events every year and talk about how awesome everything is and that everything is just, a buying opportunity, I think this won't move the needle. I think exactly this Amazon analogy is what we need. We need to ask ourselves super critical questions now.
Maybe Yuri, from your perspective, because you have kind of withdrawn from the whole on-chain activity, trying to be in the industry 24/7 and like jumping on every single trend. So you probably can judge it much better than Farmer and I from like a zoomed out perspective. What are the things in crypto that you would still be optimistic about?
I mean, of course, networks like Canton are currently relevant because there's a use case for it, 100%. I definitely give you that. I give you the stablecoin aspect, even though I would argue that this is not really the crypto thing that we thought about when entering the industry, right? Yes, there are like still a lot of these super big players that I'm also super interested in because it's like a product that that proved themselves, which is Aave. Like products like Aave still work, still drive a lot of attention and activity. This is like something that I watch very closely because if we look back how far Aave has gone, it's like just amazing to see that. There are definitely a couple of DeFi protocols like surprise, surprise, blockchain was designed for for finance. So these are like doing well. And to that question, yes, I think if we really think about okay, who who would benefit from like the most from these systems, it's like unbanked people. This is what we talked about in 2020, 2021, and we completely lost the plot. I mean, bankless is called bankless for a reason, like the famous podcast. And now they just talk about how awesome Tom Lee is whenever he buys an ETH back. That's like not the core concept of what we imagined, I would say. So I think we should definitely go back to this and look at this because there is a pressing need for decentralized finance, especially in a world where a lot of authorities are taking over and can shut down your bank account if you don't do the things they would like you to do. Freedom is not something that's for granted. And this is exactly where the big use case for blockchain technology is. And I don't understand why people don't see that and go basically back to the basics. The basics of blockchain technology is something amazing. And then last but not least, AI to prove source code. That AI is getting better and better and better. You need to double check if that's if a video is real or if it's AI generated. And blockchain can help to verify that code. So these are like the 2 or 3 main pillars, but I don't think that I drop like any hot topics here. But this is how I would view it, and this is like still my hope for this industry. But again, we have to ask these super critical questions and don't go back and forth and say, hey, in 2 years the world will look different for crypto. I don't think that this is going to work.
On the note of Tom Lee, he's currently sitting at, I think, somewhere between 4 to 6 billion in unrealized losses.
I think it's 9 billion now.
9
Yeah,
billion?
and he bought today. He bought the dip today. He
the
bought
fifth
95
number-
million.
I think the 5th number is it's the 5th worst trade of all time.
Well, I mean, he
On
hasn't
record.
realized it yet. The like
He hasn't
to
realized it
count
yet.
into that
That's
list,
right.
you have to realize it.
That's
I
true.
don't know. I mean, his ETH DAT is probably one of those that is pretty secure for the next 1 to 2
I think
years
so.
when it comes to paying back their debts. I really want to better understand how likely an actual unwinding of DATs is in the short to midterm, because you see
we're
a lot
gonna
of
see
people
it.
who are
We're
bearish
gonna
about
see it right
crypto
now.
talk about it, but I mean, to be frank, most of these appear to be somewhat secure over the like immediate term, speaking the next couple of months, because they all have to pay back their loans only in late 2026 or 2027.
Yeah, I mean, we have Saylor is sitting underneath his average price entry. He's finally down, right? That was like right there around 76K, which we hit last night. Maybe it's like right back above it now. So that's a really interesting level that everybody's been looking at. Like, but yeah, Sailor, Tom Lee, like they're probably like the best versions of a DAT, right? For all of the like, there's a lot of other DATs and they're all underwater. And so I do think we start seeing some of like the less capitalized ones like unwind and go belly up soon. Surely not all of them could withstand this for that long. Like you're saying, like you think 1 or 2 years or 1 or 2 months, I'm not sure. Like I think by summer we start seeing like several of these project like DATs unwind. And also from the beginning, we've all just been saying like, this is a stupid idea. Like these aren't, it doesn't make any sense not to hold the underlying and hold some like weird holding companies stock instead. You know, it doesn't make any sense. The mining stocks make sense. Several of those things make sense. The DATs really never made sense to anyone who was crypto native. Just seemed like a weird, pointless financial instrument.
Yeah, and first and foremost, and I also want like we talked about this last summer, Max. I remember this episode where I really asked, like, what the fuck are these chains doing? Like they were like saying, oh, there's going to be, I won't call the names, but you can look them up, random ass layer ones with literally, like, I think 3 projects building on them, with 2 people using the chain, so with almost 0 activity, thinking, oh, we need to build like an investment vehicle for institutional investors to buy our stupid coin. Why? You don't have any traction, you don't have any demand, you just raised like, I don't know, 100 million or even more. Why do you need to, sell this one again? I mean, of course, you want to sell it again to, counterfight price pressure to the downside, of course. But nobody was building shit. Nobody was just trying to, massage the Fugazi numbers. This is what happened. And I'm very happy that it finally collapses because, we really need to learn the lessons as an industry.
It still feels like, I mean, I think it's going to cause a lot of like turmoil still. I think like we're just starting to see like having these conversations about like what DAT unwindings look like and how much ETH and BTC and Solana and whatever else DATs were created for, like what that looks like and how it affects the market. But I think it's all, it doesn't really change the outlook that I think we're sort of like chopped down, for a long time. It doesn't seem like this is just going to be like some V reversal back into all-time highs anytime soon. So I think we have plenty of time to like kind of like let it all wash out and start to like slowly place our bets. But one interesting thing, I'm sure Yuri, you haven't been. I'd like Max at some point to talk about AI and the AI use case and everything that happened this week on Base.
With the Claude Mold Book and all of these things?
Yeah.
Sure.
You want to talk about it now? I didn't want to like jump into something else there.
Oh, we can transfer over to that section for sure.
Cool. So Yuri, you probably haven't been following this much at all, but Max, I think you've been following it. Do you want to like give like a synopsis, like a quick overview?
I mean, since I'm probably like the most technically incompetent person on that call and ranging among them in the entire crypto industry, I haven't really used it myself, but I've tried to follow it along a little bit. So basically, you had that Claude, Open Claude, whatever, it got rebranded a few times, agent, which apparently was the first agent which was able to not completely autonomously, but especially continue working overnight. So what many people did is they either bought a server or some people even bought, I think it was Mac Minis, and just let that agent run and complete tasks for them basically 24/7. So they didn't have to instruct it every single time with specifically what they wanted, but they could give it an overarching goal, and then the agent just implemented it or tried to build that thing step by step, and was able to kind of iterate on its own mistakes, if I understood that correctly. And then what happened down the road is they all of these Claude, whatever, open Claude agents, they started a Reddit-like forum, which is called Moldbook. So you have all of these agents conversing on that forum, which resembles Reddit. There are some doubts whether all of the posts are actually written by AI or if it is humans posing as AI. So kind of the opposite of X, where you have a lot of AI ran bots that are posing as humans. But yeah, it's quite interesting. I guess you are much deeper into it. How far would you say does this bring us closer to AGI? Have you used it for anything? I've also heard quite a few security concerns. If your like open Claude agent gets hacked, because if you like really want to make use of it, you have to give it permission to a bunch of your social networks if you want to automate posts or like automate your calendar or whatever. So if this login to your agent gets compromised somehow, I would assume that this is quite a detrimental security risk.
Yeah, there's a lot there. On the security side, that's why people are sandboxing them. So that's why like you see everyone buying the Mac Minis and not running them on like their machine that they run everything else on. But the idea with like the Moltbook, Claudebook, Lobster, whatever it's called at the moment, is that you can create an agent, but only the agent can autonomously like decide to do things. Does that make sense? And so like the idea is that there's constraints to where only the agents are allowed to do things, and in most cases it's people saying like, hey, go do whatever you want.
But is that only related to Moldbook, or is that related to OpenClaw in general? Okay.
Just the Moldbook. OpenClaw, you're sort of in charge of your agent. But yeah, on a security side, everyone, like, you can even run them on like cheap like Raspberry Pis and different things, but it'll obviously work better if it has its own like dedicated machine. So yeah, that's why everyone's buying Mac Minis. I have played with it a bunch. Me and my buddy set one up, and right now it is running in the background, and its job is to create a game, anything that like it thinks is fun or cool, and then once it's done with the game, it just posts it on a website. So that's kind of like what we're playing with right now, and it's really cool. It's come up with like really kind of like weird, interesting ideas. But I think like the big question, especially for here in the context we're talking about right now, is within the last week, you have a lot of smart folks in the crypto industry who are coming out and saying, hey, this never made sense to me before, but finally this makes sense. Crypto is AI's currency. And that like kind of clicked in a lot of different ways for people. And so that opens up an enormous amount of use cases for the crypto industry and like filling up some of this useless block space. All of this happened on Base, which is really interesting. They sort of like, all came out and retweeted it and tweeted about it hundreds of times. I traded all of it. I traded all the like drama on the FOMO app as all this was happening. I thought that was really fun. But I think that's the big question for you guys. The idea is AIs don't have social security numbers. They don't have passport numbers. They can't create a bank account. They can't do any of that. So it's very obvious to a lot of people that the currency that like AI and AI agents are going to use online is crypto and crypto wallets.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree to that. But unfortunately, I also need to jump now, guys. So yeah, thank you so much for having me once again, Max. And nice chatting as always, Farmer. But yeah, I agree to the last take.
Thanks
Good
for
to
coming
see you,
on here,
homie.
as always. Well, I said in one of the prediction or outlook episodes for 2026 that verification of humans or AI generated content or like any generated action is going to be one of the main use cases and main narratives for blockchain as a technology in this year. And I do think that stuff like Moldbook, OpenClaw, when agents are finally able to execute things themselves and not only provide information or provide certain code input upon a prompt, that is going to become much more relevant now than it was a few months ago. I fully agree with you that crypto serving as the most proximate type of payment rails for agent interactions is, yeah, I fully agree with that. Don't really think that they can tap into the traditional banking system legally. I don't know about the technical feasibility. I couldn't judge it, but I would be very surprised if that was possible. Are there any projects or any chains that I would see profit from that disproportionately in the short to midterm? Not really. I mean, when I'm thinking about it, Near has been positioning it around the AI stuff quite a bit. I know you're much deeper in the Near trenches than I am. I probably haven't really looked at it for the last 1.5 or 2 years. But other than that, I mean, we have a bunch of RWA and TradFi/fintech focused chains, but I don't think that I've come across anything that is portraying like a significant lead or a significant advantage when it comes to providing the infrastructure for these agentic interactions. I'm very sure that Base is trying to capture a slice of that pie, just because they are very quick to jump on new and emerging trends. And while it is easy to dance on the grave of them when the trend dies, I do think that eventually they will hit a big home run, and maybe agentic commerce is going to be it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think Base in general just wants to be pumped up fun. They saw pumped up fun win this like revenue game. And they just want to be that so bad. And you could see it in Jesse and them's tweets for over a year now. What makes me so bullish on Pump is any news event, anything that happens, like this freaking penguin from last week, right? Going to 150 million. Anything that ever happens, it basically happens on Pump. So yeah, I think they just want that revenue more than anything else. So yeah, very bullish on Pump long term. It's pretty awesome. But I think this is like actually like a huge moment, this like Claude agent thing. And I think that we see so many of the crypto projects in the next like 2 or 3 months all fighting for like a slice of that pie, all trying to like create an agent platform, all trying to hire like agent AI sort of teams and like lean into that. Because I think it's the new hot thing for the next couple months. Like you're saying, like there's no way to like pick a winner from that. Near has been this like sort of like AI first sort of thing, and then over the last 4 months they've sort of like changed their branding for like the private Near intents and doing all the volume for Zcash. And so yeah, they have a lot of cool stuff going on, even though there's really never been any strength in the chart. So I'm not sure what's going on there. I'm not sure if that is there's just too much supply hangover and too many holders from back in the day. Anytime you get a bounce, it sells off. I'm not sure if it's like a weird unlock schedule or something, but I spent some time with the Near folks in Portugal this fall. Just like generally super impressed with them. Everything they're doing, like their technical abilities are unbelievable. Yeah, really impressed with them. Although like, they don't focus on the marketing side or anything like that. It feels like one of those sort of like long-term infrastructure bets that if you get a good entry, it probably plays out at some point.
Do you think we'll see a similar market dynamic to the late 2024 AI agent season with virtuals, AI 16Z, and all of these type of coins?
Like a resurgence of that?
Not a resurgence of these coins in particular. Like, I mean, I haven't followed along with them closely, but I have not seen that any one of them is able to position themselves well in that new wave of AI coming up. Maybe virtuals, if they're able to, like, I don't know, function as a launch pad for or where you're able to tokenize certain open Claude agents that have specific abilities that others have not. On the other hand, I mean, I can't really judge it from a technical perspective, but from a high-level view, why would any of these agents have a sustainable moat? I mean, unless they have access to data that no other agent has access to, the capabilities should be pretty much the same because they're all running on the same model. So I think the market has been much more aware of the like short-lived modes and just the kind of one cycle, one innovation following the next one pretty quickly in the AI sector. So there has not been, at least in the crypto/tokenized space, there hasn't really been anything attractive associated with AI to bet one as an asset over the past almost 12 months now. I mean, Nvidia is still pretty high up there as an like base input into the whole AI trade through the demand for compute. But I mean, tech stocks have sold off a little bit over the past couple of days. I'm not too opinionated whether we've seen the cycle top in the Nasdaq or not. I think it's a little too early to judge that. Of course, markets have been super heated up, running very hot for the past, 3 years essentially. So we've reached a state of exuberance there. On the other hand, since the direct political involvement in financial markets is higher than in the last couple of decades, particularly looking at the current US administration, and there is an extremely strong incentive to pump markets higher. I would not be comfortable with like naked shorting these markets at this point too.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't know who the winner will be. I think you're right. I think we've seen like small innovations, like cool things here and there, very short-lived. But I've been saying this for 5 years. It's like AI is 10x bigger than crypto, 10x more important than crypto. And so I think anywhere that there's overlap, I'm just very interested in it. And so I don't know who the big winners are. I mean, I followed, Akash's like decentralized compute for years. It seemed like an incredible model. The token hasn't done well, but the team's incredible. And so that's something I'm still like paying attention to. I think you have the other big player is Venice AI, which is
that's the one by Eric Voorhees.
Yeah,
right?
Eric Voorhees. And so they still keep innovating. They have added, just this week, they've added like private memory, right? And so this is a big thing that people have been worried about, is letting these AIs like sort of hold, everything you've ever talked to about it, because, you're worried about like the privacy of that in the future and all of that getting leaked out. But now Venice has private memory that they just came up with. And of course, they're like adding new models all the time. And so I think there could be some winners there that come out of that. It's hard to say, like all token prices are down. But like I said, I think like some of those, if you can get a good entry that you're comfortable with, sort of like down at these like sort of like seed round levels that they probably raised at 4 years ago. Well, another cool thing about Venice is they didn't raise any money. Eric Voorhees just like paid for it all, and there's no like VCs or like a bunch of like extractive sort of things going on. So that's a product that I still really like and think is cool. I still have like enough I think you stake like 1,000 tokens, then you get to use their pro model for free forever. So that's pretty cool. As far as this new stuff, I don't know, but I think if there's not that many interesting sectors to pay attention to in crypto, the crossover between AI agents and crypto and like agent payments, I think is super interesting to pay attention to. And I don't think it's like any time to decide like who the winner is going to be, or like what cool innovations will come out, what cool architecture will be like agents' favorite place to be in a playground. But I do think agents in general is going to 1000x exponentially over time. And so that's another weird, interesting thing about this time in history. We're talking about all these, timelines. You've got years to invest and blah, blah, blah. But it's like AI and the exponential growth of what's happening is really hard for like a human to comprehend. We're talking about things getting twice as good every 6 weeks. And then they're going to get twice as good every 3 weeks. And then they're going to get twice as good every 3 days, because we're finally at a point where the AIs are innovating on themselves. Like the Anthropic team is letting Claude write Claude code, and so like as we see, it's going to like continue to accelerate. And so I think it's something like not to sleep on and something to pay really close attention to.
Yeah, heavily agree there. Also on the aspect of privacy, I am very concerned that we are in the process of creating our own digital panopticon here. And
100%.
for most people, we will very soon reach the point where it spirals out of our own control and our own knowledge. Who knows what about us, how this could theoretically be used against us, how to control one's own data. There's this race and this trade-off between, do I want to use every new AI productivity tool versus keeping sovereignty over my own workflows, over my own data, over my own everything, essentially. And especially if you look at people in like your generation, my generation, and younger, the incentive is there to basically lie your entire life out public towards an AI. Because if you look at all these K-shaped trends in society, the incentive to get ahead, to be one of a few winners, is growing day by day, and there are percentage-wise more losers day by day. So the willingness to sacrifice everything else just to get a little bit ahead in society, right now, at least on the surface, is growing. And I do think we should be very concerned about that.
It's really funny. I was in college when the iPhone came out. And at the time we were all like, studying philosophy and different things and having these like big, deep conversations. And all the conversations that were happening around the iPhone was like, we'll never like put our like email on here and let like Apple be like tracking us. We're never going to like use this Maps product, because then like Google and Apple are just going to be like tracking us around everywhere and using our data for weird stuff. We're never going to want to like fill up a phone with like pictures of ourselves and like loved ones and girlfriends and everything else. And no one even gave a shit. It's just like instantly, like as soon as you could like post a Instagram picture and then like tag the location, everyone did it. And so it's going to be the exact same thing with this. There will be like people like us, and then also like really smart people within AI, talking about the dangers of AI, talking about the lack of privacy, talking about like how dystopian and weird the future could be. And everyone's going to do it anyway. Like you were saying, everybody wants that edge. Everyone wants to get ahead, and mostly humans want convenience. And so, and then we're going to have this same conversation again with humanoid robots being in our homes, listening to everything we do. But we can see with Alexa and other products that are already in the home, and like Ring camera, all these different things, that people will choose convenience over privacy, like every single time. And so it's inevitable. There's not even an interesting conversation to have around it. 100% of people will adopt it like they adopted the smartphone. And it's more interesting just to think about all the weird ways humans and society are going to change as the technology around us rapidly changes over the next few years.
Even though I'm only 24, I do think that a lot of people in like my age group would be much better off and much happier just like becoming chicken farmers or cattle farmers or whatever. It's
Yep.
just, I mean, I by no means am opposed to technology, and if I look at many people in the boomer generation, especially in Germany, there's very widespread ignorance to genuine improvements that are enabled through technology, especially when it comes to media usage, automatization of certain workflows, etc., which are, especially if you look at a lot of white collar jobs, are not even originally made for us humans to be worked on. I mean, I don't see a lot of valor or like thing to pride yourself on as a human if you're like putting numbers into Excel all day. Like, we're not
Yeah.
really made for that. On the other hand, I do think that we need to become more aware of the trade-off of technology. Like, what are we giving up in not only immediately, but particularly in the mid to long run? And what are the effects of these technologies on our day-to-day social interactions? I mean, if you look at all of the trends that are dominating our time and like related developments in society around that, all the polarization, all the isolation, the complete inability of young people to interact socially. I mean, we can't just pretend like this is not an issue. I just spent a month in Puerto Rico, so somewhat adjacent to the US, and like every time I come to the US, I notice what happens if there's really no more common denominator of like empathy and mutual understanding in a society. And it's like you come there and you don't really know how to react towards it, because everybody has become so ignorant towards the other side of the aisle in that sense. Everybody thinks that they're absolutely right. They don't even consider the possibility that they might be wrong or that there could be an alternative to their currently held views. And then if you look at the media diet of these people, it doesn't matter if they are some like complete hillbilly or some coastal college educated whatever white collar worker. If they're 50 and upwards, a lot of the media that they consume is very obviously AI generated. They have lost any competence in like differentiating between like truth and just like blatantly made up AI slop. There's a complete inability to differentiate between that. And it's just like, I really underestimated the severity of how you can engineer society, how you can engineer public discourse with AI. And that is something that is only going to become more problematic going forward. And I really don't know how we are going to address that as society.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think like my parents' generation are really ill-equipped to deal with like social media and AI and understanding when they're being lied to and understanding the incentives in the background that the people saying what they're saying are saying. And then I think your generation is going to struggle with finding meaning in this post-work AI doing everything, robotics, humanoid robots doing everything for them. I think your generation could get to a point where you don't have to work. There is free healthcare, and science has enabled so much abundance on the earth. And then you might not know what to do with your time. Like young kids these days in the US, like they don't go out anymore, they don't drink, they don't go have fun. They're living their entire experience on through a screen. And so I think like all of our generations are going to have to cope with the rapid change that has happened and is definitely about to happen at an accelerated pace.
Yeah, it is such a weird point in time, because on the one hand, in theory, we have more like time available to concern ourselves with like leisure and all of these things than ever. Yet everybody seems busy 24/7 and is distracted with some bullshit. It's mostly like made up bullshit. It's not some like real stuff in quotation marks that nature is imposing upon us. But it's all human-made issues. But on the other hand, you also have cost of living rising into infinity, basically. If you're living in a large city as a young person, kind of no matter what job you're working, no matter how much money you're making, unless it's in the like upper six digits, of course, everybody feels like they're poor. There's, if you look at the tax incentive structure in many first world nations, it doesn't really matter if you're, as a household, especially if you're having young kids, if you make 30K or if you make 100K or if you make 150K. If you're at the bottom of the barrel, you just get subsidized into infinity, and the more money you make, more of these costs you have to bear yourself. So the whole incentive to just work your way up to become a genuinely useful participant of society, to act well out of principle instead of like out of instant gratification or whatever you can extract out of society in return. Like the incentive for long-termism seems to be completely gone right now, and I'm very concerned about that.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think even like, I mean, I know with me personally, like I don't really pay attention to the politics or any of that. Like I hate both sides equally. I don't think any of that is interesting to pay attention to. But my perspective is like, if things get shitty enough, then I'll move, right? I'll move to Costa Rica, I'll move to Argentina, Paraguay, whatever, like any place that I want, and just go somewhere else. But yeah, there is no like, you know, I'm here, I'm going to make America better slowly by working hard and then put those values in my kids. You know, I mean, the values I want to put in my kids are like, if it's shit, move somewhere else and have an amazing life, you know, like go disappear on a beach, go disappear in the mountains, like just go do what you want. And so, yeah, I think you're right. But I mean, this is the only perspective we can have. Like, I think the world is changing so quickly and and the change is going to accelerate so quickly that those who are the most adaptive, those who are the most willing and ready to change, and that's within like investing in the markets or building companies or doing anything else, like those are going to be the winners. You have to be hyper adaptive. And so, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's
the skill.
To end on. I think on the one hand, you have to be, if you just want to survive, you have to be hyper adaptive. I fully agree with that. But on the other hand, I am wondering what is going to be the leading moral framework that is determining our actions in that 21st century. Because I do think that all the societal narratives, all the kind of conventions of the post-World War II era that the boomers have lived by are pretty rapidly coming to an end. And there is a need for a new, I don't know if leading narrative sounds a little bit too grand, but something equivalent or similar to that for society to orient itself along and to work towards. Because there's right now, I think, an absence of some grand societal vision. You, of course, find individuals who still carry some optimism or like a mission to live for, but in order to have a functional society, we cannot pretend that everybody lives in isolation. I mean, that might be closer to what the objectivists around Ayn Rand are envisioning, but even though I do find some sympathy with their philosophy, and there's certainly some like good parts about it, to ignore the interdependence of human beings, I think is detrimental to every society in the mid to long run.
I agree. I think at your age, I think I gave too much credit to the general populace and didn't deal with the truth of how like moldable, shapeable, and in general like ignorant the mass general public is, and how easily they are sort of led around, you know. So I wouldn't be surprised if we end up in 10 years with people letting their moral frameworks come from AI, that there is not some sort of like moments where we're like worshiping the AI and that is sort of like the religion, and where we're getting like all of our like religious and philosophical thinking from them. I don't know, but I think this is like such a you know, everlasting sort of paradox is you want like the entire like the society is not going to be good if all parts of the society aren't like happy and healthy, you know, like Joe Rogan always says, like, you know, you just want less losers in your country. You just
I
want
mean, of course, you can't satisfy
people who are
everybody. Like, there's always
thriving.
going to be losers. But if you look at the proportions of who feels like they're winning right now versus how many people feel like they're losing right now, this is not going to end well if it is continuing on that current trajectory. Like, I don't know
Right.
how else I would phrase it. When I
There,
was in
there will
Puerto Rico, I talked to
literally just be like through automation like 90% more losers than there are right now. And it won't
yeah.
be that they're just like feeling that way. It will be like literally there is no work. And if the government doesn't give some sort of like large subsidy and universal basic income or universal high income, as Elon always says, you know, like I think things could descend into chaos.
I talked to some like very accomplished old people while I was in Puerto Rico, and I think
To be
almost
fair, you're talking to like the smartest people on earth, the people who have been like, all right, I'm going to be an expat. I'm going to move to this little island off the coast of Puerto Rico and just like live a good life. So you're talking to like the smartest amongst us.
well, I mean, there were a few like 60, 70, 80-year-olds who've done very well, and they don't understand that back then you actually had an incentive to be a net positive actor in society. And I do think that the way we've structured our financial markets, the way we've structured all the status games played in society, the behavior that gets rewarded is very extractive and just optimizes for the short term. So you kind of have to undermine society more and more. Everybody is incentivized to act like a Karen. Nobody is incentivized to be like an actor for the good in of itself. Like the pure goodwill by Kant is as dead as it has ever been. I can't put it into other words. And like these people don't even consider the possibility that with these trends that we are currently seeing are going to swing into one direction until there is pretty much no path to a peaceful resolution anymore. And I do think that, I mean, like, I'm not some civil war doomer or whatever. I think that is kind of silly to hold as an imminent position too. But to ignore that possibility is just naive. And like we have to actively discuss how to like navigate our way out of this. And if I look at the US society, I just don't see a path to peaceful resolution there.
It's gonna be a wild time, man. I think for me, the realization is that, you know, like maybe you do need to play the extractive games out in the world, and then the only place that you can have like any real impact or effect is like the tiny community that you're a part of, you know? So like even if you're like, you know, I don't know what you're considering extractive, but like whatever, just going out and getting yours, you know, like online or in crypto and in a job, a high paying job. There's no way you can't save the whole world. You know, like you can have impact on, you know, for me, it's like my family, my kids, and then like the really small community of like friends that live in the little town I live in, you know, and that's it.
If you stare into the abyss for long enough, the abyss will stare back at you, I guess. It was great having you on, Danny, and was amazing catching up. This has been quite a long episode, but I do think we covered a lot of interesting topics, and yeah, we've made quite a few pivots throughout it. hopefully see you in Denver. And other than that, until the next time, everybody.
Thanks, man.